Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Royce.
All right.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you for the ones that showed up, but I know that this is being streamed.
Okay.
So we have a lot of folks on social media that are tuning in, but we also have gotten a lot of questions.
Okay.
And so a lot of people have a lot of things that they want to hear from you about. And so I'm just going to, usually I start with a icebreaker, but I don't need the icebreaker.
All right.
Right. So we're just going to go straight to the good stuff. So I want to frame our conversation for this morning. In New Orleans, in Orleans Parish, 43% of Black children live in poverty. In New Orleans, Black media household income is $38,000 versus $97,000 for white households. Home ownership, 50% of Black homeowners in New Orleans own their homes compared to 64% of white households, right? Only 58% of working age Black men in New Orleans are employed, down from 63%. We've heard all of the data around 30,000 roughly have left the city over the last few years. How do you strike the balance between presenting the facts and focusing on what your plan is to accomplish for the city, as opposed to framing the conversation around what others may not have had? Mm-hmm. How do you respond to those kinds of things?
Well, from everything that we do, everything that I do in my approach towards policymaking, and whether it's closing the racial wealth gap or just addressing inequity generally across any area where there's disparity, you have to take a historical context into perspective. Policymaking, forward thinking requires understanding history, understanding how we got here. Mm-hmm. So understanding policies historically around redlining, Jim Crow laws, all of the segregation laws that led to where we are today is an important perspective to apply to how we got here. And it's really just about being honest. Mm-hmm. It's about being thoughtful. This is in no way an attempt to take from one to give to the other. We have to think more holistically about how we grow the pie economically, because historically, and even in today's time, when bad things happen, people on the margins get hit the worst. So if we look at even when COVID happened or any disaster, it's people who are on the margins that typically suffer the worst. And in cities like New Orleans, where the majority population is African American, given just those statistics that you laid out, when things happen, people who are on the margins are going to be affected even more. So we haven't seen any real gains in terms of closing those gaps. So I think it's important that we always present the facts, and the facts are the facts. As they say, numbers don't lie. So many don't want us to engage in discussions around race or race inequity or the racial wealth gap, but that is a huge disservice to our city. That's not the type of leadership that I've ever exhibited, and I'll make sure that we always lead with the facts. And we grow as a city when we focus on addressing those inequities. Yeah.
So you just used the word change, right? And you said marginalized folks that are on the margins. They are never.
38,000.
Yeah.
In terms of income. It's hard to survive with that.
So when you hear people say, I'm going to come to change, right? Change can go one of both ways, right? One or the other, right? And so for our community, many times change happens, but it doesn't benefit the Black community. So what's your platform? What are your policies, right, that are going to actually change the Black community for the better?
The number one is affordability. I think the paper just published an article today talking about the candidates' plans on how we plan to deal with housing. So we need well over 40,000 affordable units in the city of New Orleans. My goal is to develop 40,000 units over 10 years, affordable units in the city of New Orleans right now. We have 20,000 vacant lots. We have 20,000 vacant blighted properties. We did over 80,000 homes post-Katrina. This is just something that we have to do. Right now, there are 30,000 people in the city of New Orleans who are being squeezed out. Who are literally being pushed out of the city. So I want to address the issue of affordability first and foremost, because if people cannot afford to live here, they're not going to stay. Going back to the question around population loss. So that's number one. Secondly, as part of the effort, my initiative around affordability will also be homeowners insurance. I've been a leader on the issue of insurance reform at the state level, but we can't wait on the state. The city has to do its part. We need to stand up a program that's going to help at least 25% of homeowners and property owners fortify their roofs. That's the most effective and efficient way we can get homeowners insurance rates down, because that's impacting everyone. Everybody's impacted by that. And also being very aggressive around economic development, very aggressive around bringing in more jobs that pay people wages beyond just what they're making right now, because the wages right now are not sustainable. So I will be hyper-focused on affordability, which includes housing and which includes economic development. Those are my priorities. In addition to making City Hall just more functional, making it an easier place to live.
Yeah. So you just talked about everyone. So one of the questions that came in from the public, they wanted to know, how are you working to connect with residents from diverse backgrounds, especially those who may not share your experience, but are equally invested in the city of New Orleans?
So I believe that I am that candidate. When you talk about diverse backgrounds, when you talk about having a perspective that stretches from the Lower Garden District to the Lower Ninth Ward, or from Carrollton to the Cutoff, I am that candidate just based on my own personal experience growing up here in the city of New Orleans and what it was like growing up in a family that, yes, we had a two-parent household and my parents worked and provided for us, but I think I best understand the challenges that most, not all, but most New Orleanians face, everyday New Orleanians who are working to pay the bills, working to survive, just working to make it all work. So, I mean, I've had a number of different jobs throughout the course of my life. I've bussed tables at restaurants, and I was a bricklayer one summer for my neighbor who was a bricklayer. I think I bring those values and those perspectives, even if it's not me personally. I have family members and friends who are just in the fight every day and just trying to make it. And I believe that the next mayor needs to be someone who understands and shares a broad, diverse set of experiences and views on what New Orleanians are going through. You know, if you've never rode the RTA bus, it's really hard to understand what people are going through. You know, if you've never worked manual labor, if you've never worked in some of these spaces where people are just trying to make it, it's really hard to understand the perspectives of these individuals. But that isn't just it for me. I mean, I've worked at big law firms and, been in the suites as well. So I can bring those perspectives and those voices into pretty much any room that I walk into.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about your leadership style. What we've seen, over the last couple of years, 4 to 8 years, we've seen a lot in terms of out of City Hall, right? Tell us what your leadership style is and what it will be when you get to City Hall.
Collaboration. I'm not in politics to make friends. I am here to solve problems. And if you look at the work that I've done over the past 7.5 years, just as an elected leader in Baton Rouge, but you connect that to my 20 years in service, going back to 2006 when I worked at City Hall with James Carter as his chief of staff, I've always been about working with people, putting differences aside to get things done, to find solutions. I've worked with Governor Jeff Landry in a very hostile climate in Baton Rouge, where I've been in a super minority. At City Hall, everybody's a Democrat. Everybody agrees generally on the issues that we're trying to solve. The problem has been, in my opinion, the politics and the the divisiveness of your win is my loss type of style of leadership. And that's never been my style of leadership. I was taught growing up that if I have a candle and I light your candle, it doesn't put out my candle, right? So I believe that there's enough for all of us to deliver for the people who put us here. If you want the credit, fine. I'm not in it for the credit. I just want the results. So I'm a results-oriented leader who's focused on collaboration. And I also focus on innovation and doing things different and not repeating what has been done. If it's been working, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's just keep it going. But if it's not working, we need to be thoughtful and courageous enough to say, look, this is not working. We need to go in a different direction. So I want, my style of leadership is one where I want to surround myself with smarter people, people who are much smarter than me, true experts in their field, and empower them to feel a level of ownership and a level of investment in the work that they're doing so we can show up every day and do the best for the people of the city of New Orleans. Right now, we're not getting that. We have to turn the page on the dysfunction, and that's what I'm going to bring in.
So I've heard a lot of people, actually one of our team members here at Maroon over the weekend, she said, I feel like a lot of people don't know Royce, but when they do know him, they love him, right? Yeah. So tell me what you're going to do. Yeah. Like, what is the call to action for people that are out there who just say, look, I just don't know him, but I might like him. Yeah. So what's your call to action for people like that?
Well, that's a common thing that people say. And my retort is often, okay, well, you don't know me yet, but you're going to know me. This is the time where people really start to tune in and pay attention to the race. So it's not completely uncommon for people to say that, especially when you're somebody like me who hasn't been running for as long as some other people have been running. So I would say, certainly go to my website. You can learn more about me, follow me on social media, talk to other people who know my record of service in the community. But I also say the retort is, okay, well, how well do you know the other candidates? You might know their name, you may have seen their face, but do you truly know them, right? So get to know me, right? Get to know me. Yeah. And what I want to do is make the people of this city proud of their leadership. Make the people of this city feel confident that we're moving in the right direction. Affordability, safety, efficiency at City Hall, and economic opportunity. Those are my 4 priorities. And I have a platform where we call it an opportunity agenda for the things that we want to do to make the city of New Orleans better, make it more functional, make it more competitive. But I have a real record of service spanning 20 years. I have the education, I have the professional experience, I have the temperament. I have the temperament to work in very difficult situations and just not be thrown off by all of the distractions. I mean, there's so many distractions that come along that get in the way of us staying the course to deliver. And that's what the next leader is going to have to do, because there's so many demands. There's so many demands, and we've often been reactionary. City government, you're often responding to crises, you're responding to challenges. The job of the mayor, in my opinion, is not just to respond to those crises and those everyday fires that come that are inevitable, but we also have to be proactive. And we have to lead from the front where we're planning for the next 5, 10, 25 years. Doing both of those things is really difficult. So we have to restore trust between the mayor's office and the city council. We have to restore a spirit of collaboration within city government, which does not exist right now. That's what I want to bring in. If anyone who has questions about me, who doesn't quote unquote know me, I'll show up, I'll pull up, wherever you want me to show up. I mean, if you want to get to know me, it's not, we can, but I think people are really just starting to pay attention to different candidates and what distinguishes each candidate. So that's a fair question. Yeah. I got 2 questions, and I'm gonna open it up to anybody else that's here. You just used a couple of words, and I want you to double down on this because I've heard it a couple of times, but I want you to help people understand what you're trying to say when you say it. Okay. You talked about the dysfunction and chaos, the 2 words that you just said, right?
Tell us what that means for people. I had a conversation earlier over the weekend. They said, yeah, I hear him say it, but I don't know what he's talking about. So tell us what you mean when you say we have been in this place of dysfunction and chaos.
What I mean when I say that, you look at just some of the facts. We've lost over 20,000 people in the city of New Orleans. They didn't leave because they just wanted to leave. Things just haven't been going well in the city of New Orleans. And it hasn't been all bad, right? We've had some successes, but when 20,000 people leave your city, that's an indication. We've had multiple rate hikes from Entergy. We lost twice a week trash pickup with no explanation, right? Those basic city services. When you call to get a street light repaired, you don't know how long it's going to take. When you call to get a street fixed, you don't know how long it's going to take, right? The fighting amongst the city council and the mayor, the inability for them to get in a room and collaborate. We saw a fight over a trash contract go all the way up to the Louisiana Supreme Court. That's chaos. That's dysfunction. Finger pointing, all of the jockeying around issues that we should be trying to work to rise above. We are facing a $100 million budget deficit. So yeah, that's dysfunction and that's chaos.
All right, I'm gonna open up because you just covered my second question. Anybody in the room, do y'all have any questions for the candidate? Come on.
So I think that your base, the people who are voting for you, they're solid. They're like, yeah, that's my rule. But I feel like there's a group of people that all candidates are missing. And it's the people who don't necessarily understand the political word terms or anything. Like they don't get what agenda means. They don't even care what the budget is. They care more about what you're going to do for them specifically.
Okay.
And I think that's the message that I'm trying to put it in the right question.
Okay.
But that's what I'm trying to get. Like, there's a group of people who they're like, budget, I don't care about budget. I don't care what's going on in the city hall. What you going to do for me? You know what I mean? So what do you say to those people? Not necessarily like them, you're not talking to them specifically, but more culture bearers, more people who are not aware of political terms.
Right.
They just like, what that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are you, how do you reach out to them? How do you get to those people and help them understand who Royce is?
Sure. So voter engagement is critical and constituent engagement is critical. And I know that a big part of that lies at my feet to make sure that I'm doing the best job possible to do outreach so they understand the role and responsibility of the mayor, just like I've had to do as a state legislator, to help my constituents understand the role and responsibilities of what I do. People have a lot on their plate. People are just trying to pay their bills, take care of their children, live their life, and navigate these streets, right? So a lot of people really don't have the time to do all of the research and find out, what the functions of the city council are, what the functions of the mayor's office are. But I believe it's my responsibility to do as much outreach and education as possible. What I would say is to someone who wants to know what I will do for them is I'm working to make New Orleans an easier place to live. I'm working to make New Orleans a more affordable place to live. The way I'm going to try to do that, my goals mean that I want to develop 40,000 affordable units in the city of New Orleans. I want to lower the cost of insurance. I want to create a 0 to 3 universal child care, access to child care program, right? You can say that. You can tell somebody that. I want to have a program where all of our kids in the city of New Orleans are literate by the age of 8. That matters. That matters. I want to bring back twice a week trash pickup. If you want to talk about how the $100 million deficit impacts them, it matters because the budget directs city services. So all of the services, all of the things that people are looking for from their city, whether it's repairing streets, repairing street lights, cutting overgrown lots, dealing with blighted homes, the city has to pay for those things. So if we have a deficit, if we don't have the money to do it, oftentimes that means we can't provide those services. So that's how it impacts everyday people, because people pay taxes. People pay to live here. So that's how it matters. And I know different people have different priorities, but I want to make New Orleans an easier place to live, where City Hall is working for them and not against them.
Let me jump in, because you talked about education,
Yeah.
and we actually had a question on education. Young families, they leave New Orleans, what you already talked about, but they do so because they don't have quality, affordable education opportunities for their kids.
Right.
What are you going to do? Typically the city, right, the mayor doesn't kind of tip into, the New Orleans public school system, right? What's your vision in terms of because you talked about collaboration. What does collaboration look like?
Absolutely.
In that world?
The mayor's office has to be collaborative with New Orleans public schools. Even though the mayor doesn't have direct jurisdiction over the schools, we already know that the city does the collection of the property taxes, and you then have to remit those taxes back to the schools. So there's a dispute right now around that fee and working that out. And I will honor what the settlement was and making sure that the schools get what they need to be properly funded. That's collaboration. That's working in collaboration. But ultimately, all of the city services and the roles of the city government have a direct connection to our children in these schools. So when I think about New Orleans Recreation Department and how well New Orleans Recreation Department is performing, our children who participate in NORD, how well the New Orleans Recreation Department is functioning will have an impact on how those kids show up to school in the morning, right? That's how I think about partnership and collaboration. The program that was stood up for $10 million working in collaboration with Children's Hospital for mental health services for our young people. That's collaboration. And I want to go further on my vision for our young people and how important early childhood care access is. We have the millers, we passed the millers, but we know that there's still there's not enough seats in the program. So that's why we have to be even more aggressive. And I think the city can be the convener. The city can be the convener of working with all of the child care providers throughout the city, working with private philanthropy, working with private business to do more to invest so that every child, from the moment they're born to the age of 3, has quality early child care access. And that will make the difference when these kids show up to kindergarten and they're ready. Because if they show up to kindergarten and they're not ready, we already know statistically that they have a likelihood to fall behind. So I think we have to invest as early as possible, and the city cannot wait and say it's the state's responsibility or it's the school's responsibility or if it's someone else's responsibility. I think the city has to take a more aggressive role in advocating for something that's so crucial. The same thing around literacy up to the age of 8. I know this is a little non-traditional for the city to be involved in, but I think it's something that is so vital and it can really help turn the city around. The earlier we can invest in those young minds, the better we'll be down the road. Any other questions? Come on, y'all. Over there. Hey.
I would say that your plan to create the 40,000 housing units over the next decade is ambitious and it's sadly needed, of course, because of the artists that we see and others that are always struggling for housing. But a 10-year horizon does also depend on the election and future administrations really carrying it forward. So you've spoken a lot about and emphasized collaboration. How can you structure a plan that is going to survive the political turnover and ensure that the work does continue?
I'm glad you asked that question because 10 years, that's not just re-election, but that's re-election and 2 more years into a previous, a future administration. So I've said this on the campaign trail and I will continue to say this. I do not believe in dismantling something that is working. If we have something that's already working, we need to make it work better. And my style of leadership is also one that I want to set up City Hall in such a way to where these systems that we're trying to develop outlive me. And I want to create the office and the position of a chief housing officer that coordinates between HANO, that coordinates between NORA, the Finance New Orleans, the Office of Community Development, so that we have a well-functioning, well-oiled machine around leveraging the affordable housing fund that we just passed as a city overwhelmingly. That's going to leverage somewhere between $17 to $20 million a year out of the budget to go towards affordable housing. After my first term, not suggesting that I would be reelected, because when you're mayor, you got to make hard decisions, and people may not be happy with the job that I'm doing. I don't know, but my hope is that I will be doing a good enough job to be reelected, that we will have a system in place that we will have work and results to show that it's working. And 40,000 is ambitious, but we have to be ambitious, because if we're not ambitious, it won't happen. Mm-hmm. It just simply won't happen. Running for mayor is ambitious. Mm-hmm. Putting myself out there in this way is ambitious. So everything that I do has to be bold. It has to be going against what they say we can't do. We did 80,000 homes after Hurricane Katrina. So we know it can be done. We just have to get up out of our own way and make it happen. So it goes really back to the style of leadership that I'm talking about bringing. People criticize me all day long. I'm not, that's okay. I'm here to help restore trust in local government. That's what we need more than anything. And once we can restore trust amongst department leadership and the people who are working to develop housing in the city of New Orleans, then we can start to see actual results. And that's what we need more than anything. Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions in the audience? So this is my last question. It's not my question, somebody else's question.
You don't want to take the blame.
But it's a good question.
But you're going to ask it, though.
But it's a good question, and I'm going to ask. Mm-hmm. What do you see as the most pivotal needs to secure the win? What do you think in terms of the pivotal moves to secure the win? Electorally? Yes.
Yeah. So, politically, from a political standpoint, I got into the race late.
Yep.
And that's important, because when people say, why'd you get in so late? Well, I said, I didn't really get in late. I actually met the qualifying deadline.
Right.
Technically, I didn't get in late.
The nerd in you. Yes,
yeah. But we have the momentum in this race. And within 2 months, we've already solidly got to second place. We believe there will be a runoff. And once there's a runoff, it's going to be a completely different race right now. Mm-hmm. Many people in the city had resigned themselves to believe that the race had already been decided, mm-hmm. that this was a foregone conclusion and it's done. Mm-hmm. And I think in a lot of ways, that's why I had to run, because I think that's bad for the city. Mm-hmm. I think that's bad for the city to feel as though they didn't have options. Mm-hmm. Especially coming off all of the challenges that I described at the outset. Yeah. When the front runner, if you will, has been at the helm of city government as either president or vice president for the past 4 years, is blaming everything that is not good with the city on someone else. But you've been at the helm of the city for 8 years, but then to just be coronated into the mayor's office, I think that will only lead to the same outcomes that we've been getting. Mm-hmm. And the race needs to be competitive. I think people are waking up to that and realizing that there are other options in the race. And we need to be asking the hard questions, not just about, okay, who is he? I don't know him. I never heard of him. The real question is, who the people who've been there? What have you been doing? Mm-hmm. You've had the opportunity to be about some of the change that you say you're going to bring. Because again, you can get to the mayor's office, but what if you have a recalcitrant city council that doesn't want to cooperate? Then are you just going to blame the city council? Mm-hmm. It doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. You got to get in the room and work with people. And I don't sit around and blame things that aren't happening on other people. That's not what leadership is. So I think people are waking up to that message. Mm-hmm. We know we have a short window in which to convey that message, but we have momentum. Our numbers are going up every day. We believe we're going to get to the runoff. And when that happens, it'll be a completely different race. So I just want people to pay attention and understand how much this race is going to impact the city of New Orleans going forward. I'm always a strong proponent of people exercising their right to vote, because if you don't vote, you literally give away your voice, you give away your power. So, Yeah, I think, you know, ultimately people are gonna wake up and see what's going on.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Yeah.
job.
Thank you. All right.
All right, y'all. Thank you.